Hi, Jim. How are you today?
I'm doing very good. How about you?
Not bad myself, not bad at all. So we have an exciting topic, okay? And it's RPA. And so many people put different meaning in this RPA word, okay? So let's spell it out.
Right.
So in our context, it is robotic process automation, okay? So that said, most of our audiences would hear something about it before joining this session, or if not. So let's educate everyone and let's drill down a little bit what we find so interesting about the big topic RPA, the big word out there. Take it away, Jim.
Okay, I'm going to start with the little picture and say what the big picture is going to be, which is, my take on it. Today, the small picture says we're saving a lot of money on individual tasks. We're taking away dull work from people. We're helping employees and we're helping customers get rid of mundane work, therefore saving cost, time, and money. And generally, they start off in industries that are, labor heavy and generally around finance and accounting, but it's starting to hit almost every industry and every function. So RPA is hot. The bots are hot. And it will continue to stay hot only if the RPA vendors do certain things. And I'm going to talk about what those things are. So today, the story is excellent. It's growing double digit. It's growing fast. The benefits are enticing. Some people call it a gateway drug to AI. I believe that it's a gateway drug to the elastic workforce. And what do I mean by the elastic workforce? I mean that there will be bots that will be buddying up with employees and customers and helping them and assisting them, which allows management to decide, do I want a bot to collaborate on this? Do I want a human to do it? Can I shift it? So now the workforce becomes elastic. If I don't have enough people, then I can have a bot do it or a bot help. So it's going to be a little bit more dynamic than, okay, let's just replace all the dull work. And so the notion of RPA becoming less task driven, because a lot of people confuse BPM with RPA, because BPM handles the end-to-end step sequences, and RPA is really good on the steps. I can automate the steps. Well, they're starting to get a little fuzzy, and so both of them are headed towards better business outcomes. And then one of the next sessions, I'll talk about where process is going for 2020. So RPA is going to be less focused on task automation and more focused on business outcomes. So in order to do that, it's going to have to change a little bit. And instead of one or two industries or one or two functions in a company, RPA is going to be everywhere. And it's going to move from just kind of an isolated private, I'm going to do this task for you, to we're going to work on this together and collaborate. And that means RPA has to move from singularity and solidarity and individual performer to more of a collaborator. And that means that they need to mix with other technologies. An example is we see RPA and BPM, a lot of partnerships going on there. We also see a lot of RPA being driven by mining. So people will look at the results of many process executions, mine that and say, oh, wow, here's a great area where we can focus an RPA solution. So the idea of partnering is going to become strong. And of course, AI will be one of those. And I think AI is going to permeate in multiple areas. It's not just going to be RPA. So RPA may be one of the gateway drugs to AI. But I think it's more of a gateway drug to the elastic workforce. So what does RPA need to do in the future to get this going? Well, first of all, the level of automation has to change. So today it's simplistic automation. It's kind of like taking manual tasks that are kind of nasty and automating them. In some cases, that automation is looked at over the shoulder. So this is where there are some parallels between AI and RPA. There's supervised and unsupervised RPA. And so the notion of people looking over the shoulder of the RPA bots, and then you start moving into from reactive to proactive, and you could have some of these RPA bots as listening posts on the edge of your network, looking for certain things. Everywhere your company or your organization has its fingers, it could be looking for patterns. So now RPA isn't just doing work; it's looking for signals and patterns. And those are important things if companies want to move from reactive to proactive. Everybody says we need to be predictive. It's a lot harder than it sounds. The other thing that it needs to do is move from kind of low-level stuff. Today, it's really good at data integration, taking data from this system and combining it with this system, scraping it off a website, scraping it off a screen, combining it and presenting it in the context of a process, which gives it the context, and move it upstream to doing more unstructured data, maybe working with textual information, working with content, managing knowledge, making suggestions on that kind of thing. So it needs to, one, pick up more complicated work. Two, work on more complicated data sources and functions. And three, it needs to move from what I would call low-level kinds of actions to sensing and assisting decisions. And eventually it will assist people and therefore will become more involved with the elastic workforce. So RPA, has a lot of potential. Mm-hmm. And it's always easier to extend something that's white hot and move it. So when things have momentum, that's when you have to strike. So if the RPA vendors don't have a similar vision for, hey, we've got to go beyond simplistic automation to more complex automation and prediction, we're going to have some problems. Now, what are the RPA vendors doing? Mm-hmm. A couple of things that they're doing that I'm encouraged by, but they need to take it further. The first thing they're doing is they're creating marketplaces. So in essence, some people call it a bot farm, some people call it a bot market, where you can pick up bots and leverage them. And that's a great idea. Unfortunately, the bots from one vendor don't work with the bots of another. So that's a bit of an issue. There's a vendor tie-in. I wish they'd have standards and bots would buddy with each other across the vendor lines, but today they don't. So what I see them doing is creating these bot markets. That's a good thing, because now you're organizing the bots instead of just willy-nilly creating them, and you can actually share them and reuse them now if you have a marketplace. So that's a good thing.
So you have your own bot farm in a way, right? You're creating an environment, right, where all your seeds of bots, initial kind of right setting, right?
And as they grow up and become more sophisticated, they'll have a lot of yield out of that farm. The other thing that they're doing is they're taking business functions mm-hmm. and they're automating them. And this is where they start stepping into the process world. So you'll see RPA vendors providing accounts payable bots all linked together to do certain function. So that's a lot like a process, because a process has actor, step, action, next, actor, step, action, next. So they're kind of getting into that, and they're in essence what I call a complex, multifaceted bot that does a functional. So it's a functional bot rather than a task bot. And that's good that they're doing that. So there's a number of vendors that are selling some predetermined bot suites that do a certain business function or a certain organizational function. Those are good things. So that's the good thing that RPA vendors are doing. What I don't see them doing, other than partnering with BPM vendors, because that fits into that, creating that complex hybrid bot, I don't see them partnering with AI vendors often. I don't see them partnering with, process mining vendors often. And I think they have their eye on that, but I'm just not seeing it. I'm starting to see RPA vendors partnering up with content vendors. So if you take a look at content, when you talk about content capture all the way through to the linking it to a process, I mean, that's a perfect spot for RPA to do some meaningful work. So I am seeing the partnering there. So what I'd like the RPA vendors to do to grow and become more useful for customers is have a strategic plan for partnering. And there are powerful combinations that do work together, and I've documented that in a number of blog posts. So there's what I call pairs and triplets that work very well together. And we do pairs and triplets until we get to a digital business platform, which can do many, many things, all in under one cover. So I see that the RPA vendors that are going to be most successful are the ones that have a strategy. So if you're looking at an RPA vendor, make sure you get their partnering strategy. What's the order that they're going to do it in? What's the time frame? Does it match the kind of projects that you want? I mean, if you want to make your processes smarter, make sure that they're working with AI. If you want to focus RPA in on more problems so you get more productivity, should be working with mining vendors. If you have a lot of log jams with your content flows, they should be working with content. So take a look at their partnering plan. And if they won't show you a partnering plan,
this brings us to a great point. Okay, you kind of touched on it, but I've seen companies who are perfectly happy with their RPA implementations. They don't even look beyond RPA. So tell me, right, what have you seen? Because it's so hot and so interesting, so easy to implement, and so easy to demonstrate success internally and externally, right? That some companies would think, hey, this is enough for me. I will be building these mini projects, mini RPA improvement projects, right? And not even thinking about enterprise BPM or decision management platform. You know where I'm going with it, right?
There's a tactical way of doing it, and there's a strategic way of doing it. I'm encouraging the strategic way, obviously, but there's nothing wrong with continuing to mine tactics. But if that's all you do, you will get outmaneuvered by your competition, because they are figuring out, how do I create, for instance, a workbench for a worker? So in the stock trading, there are trader workbenches. In insurance, there are claim workbenches. In insurance, there's underwriting workbenches. In healthcare, there are claim workbenches. In healthcare, there are physician round automation. In field service, there's scheduling of the field service worker. I mean, if you stay in functional productivity opposed to business outcomes that are going to give you a competitive advantage, that's a real danger. It's a trap. So it's kind of like, somebody starts throwing money at you, and you see all this money flying at you,
you cannot
and
say
you
no,
just go crazy,
right? Yeah.
and you just grab all the money you can,
Yeah.
instead of saying, oh, maybe I ought to just grab the larger denominations first, instead of the small ones. So I think there's a real temptation to continue to do that. There's nothing wrong with continuing to do it, but forgetting about the strategic moves to process management, to decisioning, to predictive, really is going to put you at a competitive disadvantage. Now, the accountants are going to tell you, save the money, save the money, save the money, save the money. And by the way, why don't you save the money? Well, that's good, but that's a short-term approach. In essence, you're on what I call a water wheel, and you're just spinning. Yeah, you're saving money, but are you really advancing your organization? The really sharp organizations that stay as leaders and consistent, they're always trying to improve without just purely automating. So if you're just automating, please take a look at intelligently automating. And if you're intelligently automating, then look for business outcomes that are predictive and will give you competitive advantage. Those are the 3 steps that I see in the automation. So simple automation is good, but if you forget about, intelligently automating, you're in trouble. I would say mid-range. If you're just intelligently automating without considering how you compete and how you do in comparison to your peers, and more importantly, what your customers want, what your community wants, how you participate in an overall customer journey, because companies have this myopic vision that, well, the journey starts at my front door and it ends at my back door. Well, guess not, it doesn't. Customer journeys start before that and they end after that. So if you keep this myopic short-term mindset, it's dangerous. I wrote an article on the dangers of that, that you can read about. It talks about we need to change our behavior that's driven by accounting only.
That's an interesting point, because it's not a new point, okay, no, but it keeps coming and biting. Yep.
But we don't learn the lesson.
We don't learn the lesson, so it makes sense to repeat some pearls of wisdom, right? Just kind of reminding ourselves, right?
Yeah, we need to balance corporate outcomes with customer outcomes.
Absolutely. What's your point of view, Jim, on RPA? Is it back office function? Because when you're talking about, right, automating, looking for efficiencies, right, is it back office only?
I don't think so. I think bots are both. So you see chat bots, you see digital assistants on the front end.
Right.
You see bots helping customers.
Right.
RPA started on the back side,
on
the back office, looking for optimization and the ability to get rid of dull work. Yeah, there's plenty to dig there, but there's a lot to dig on the other side as well. So I believe it's both. Where did it start? Back office. Will it continue in back office? Sure, there's nothing wrong with that, but don't forget about the front office.
It's quite large, that back office, right? It needs all the help it can get.
If you think about chatbots, and you think about marketing with chatbots, that's a form of a bot that RPA could create. Why not?
Sure. You kind of touched on importance, when the picking RPA platform, right? Importance of looking at vendor, if they have, right partners that they can work with. So absolutely, but talk about a little bit about opportunities to leverage RPA with all the, low-hanging fruit technologies, because it's not going to be an island, right? Any RPA implementation, we know, in organization that's quite complex, there might be, again, that legacy conversation. That's my favorite one, okay? In every topic we bring it up. I want to make this bridge, right? I want to make this clear, how RPA will play with legacy, how it will play with forward-thinking AI initiatives. Okay, where is this happening?
Okay, yeah, so if you think about where RPA started, and I covered RPA before they called it RPA, and all it was about linking with legacy. So it was swivel chair integration, taking the data from one system and incorporating it and create one view for the worker or for the customer. So it started at that level. And so it needs to move beyond that. So, legacy is important, and it will continue to leverage legacy, but it also needs to move into new function. And that would be the customer journey part. That would be the customer experience part. If you don't have the stomach to do the journey, at least change the experience. And RPA is really good at that. I mean, it can combine multiple screens into one. It can combine, the web and really, really old applications in creating a new capability. And that, by the way, that's what BPM is good at as well. So linking the RPA mini steps to an overall context of a process is a good step. Making sure that process is in fact as efficient as possible, you look at process mining and combine mining. If you want to make that process smart, then you start adding AI. So let me give you an example. There was one insurance company that was going through and they were scanning in insurance applications. And they had these very strict rules for, what do I do if this field's missing? What do I do if I can't verify against my databases? And so what they did is they started using AI and machine learning to find out what the common patterns were and would change the rules and would automatically help the content scanning for the application for insurance. And it would automatically do some assists. So it would add some kind of AI assist to get it ready for the human. So I worked on a system like that. It wasn't just scanning, it was different ways of getting the information in. Some of it was keying. And we actually had RPA-like bots that used AI that made suggestions, and this was an underwriting system, to the young underwriters to say, hey, look, this is a potentially medical situation, or this is potentially a risk situation, or this is potentially a financial underpinning and qualification issue. So combining the RPA tasks with some intelligence, with process mining, all makes the RPA go further. You can move further up the automation curve into intelligence, beyond intelligence to actually predict. And in insurance, what are you doing? You're predicting. And that's why you see this happening. I mean, you're predicting, when I buy life insurance, I, as a life insurance owner, am betting I'm going to die. And the company's betting I'm going to live. Well, guess what? We're both right. I will eventually die. The insurance company is betting how long you're going to live, so it can make money off of you till you do die. That's the name of the game. So putting things, on your side to win that bet. So insurance companies are looking at diseases. Insurance companies are looking at lifespans. They're looking at what changes in the healthcare system. What will that do to a particular country? And should we do business in that country? Should we double down on that country? Those are all important things that have to happen. I hope I answered your question.
You actually answered the question in a way that I understand your point of view that BPM is not dead, okay? That's what I've heard from you. So because RPA is on everybody's mind, people understand what it actually means, right? But at the same time, you mentioned that it is important to look at your mission critical and your organizational, not only policy, but institutional knowledge, right? And leverage this, because this is not gonna go away. An insurance company been around since, I was surprised, early in England? Oh, no, Netherlands, right? In Holland, they started, how many centuries ago, right? And their business model's changing, but the idea behind, right, why they're here in the first place. So that said, these kind of conservative industries that innovating, right, and all the opportunities the technology provide now. So you touched, and I want you to expand on what you've seen delivered by RPA. And again, I like how we're comparing technical world with business world. So can you elaborate on that?
Well, I can tell you a couple of things it has delivered and hasn't delivered.
Okay.
So from a technical perspective, it's been able to leverage legacy. It's been able to surround legacy. It's been able to eliminate dumb work. That's what I call it, or dull work. But it hasn't. It hasn't done two things in my mind, which it needs to do, and I'm hoping it does. One is very few of them work under high performance environments. So when we're talking about, like a credit card company that's doing, 50 transactions a second, it doesn't stand up to that quite yet. So we're seeing some boutique RPA vendors coming up and doing that. So, and I think all of the RPA vendors will increase their performance. They're working on it all the time. The other thing it doesn't help you reuse your bots. It doesn't help you in bot management. So if somebody over here in Department A has done something that Department B might use as well, nobody knows about it. So the notion of bot management, both from a performance perspective and a reuse perspective, or at least leverage perspective, even if it's a copy and go or a clone and go, which I don't like because it just creates problems down the pike. I spent 5+ years working at a large credit card company trying to fight the clone and go problem, where we had a credit card system for every country, and there were 150 countries. So if you're trying to make a change that affects all 150 countries, good luck. The lead time,
laws and regulations and all the local rules you have to keep.
Exactly. And if you're changing a core rule that affects every local market, good luck.
So not there yet. That's what you're saying. So Jim, you're just giving away, to those RPA vendors or maybe just entrepreneurs out there, right? Hey, there's a huge gap in the market right now, and companies struggling with maintaining the bots, right? Keeping them basically, in control. So very cool, very cool. Entrepreneurs out there, talk to Jim about,
Well, and the other thing is they're not partnering with people that are on the edge. So the people that are on the edge are the ones that are working with the IoT digital twins and decisioning at the edge. So there are some vendors that are really good at decisioning. They have decisioning, or what I call data science, business platforms. They're not partnering with the edge guys because the robots could be helpful there, because processes are helpful there, but nobody's really picked that up. So I like the RPA vendors to pick a little bit wider perspective when they're doing their planning. But again, they're answering to the accountants that want to save money. in their own company. So, finding that balance is good. So the idea of partnering with adjacent technologies and being creative about that and coming up with partnering with companies that have problems. So for instance, let's say, the idea of infrastructure servicing. All the infrastructure is on the edge. Couldn't RPA put some of its automation out on the edge? Maybe in a drone inspecting a pipeline. Maybe in, doing a certain task on a piece of infrastructure that needs help. Let's say it's broken. Let's say there's an RPA task that's checking, are you broken, 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 are you broken? And Signal would say, hey, I'm broken. And, oh, by the way, this one over here is broken and it's the same kind. Oh, we need to send people to fix it. So the notion of having things on the edge and, working with adjacent technologies for different industries is something that I'd like to see RPA do. I'm not saying they're not doing great things. They are. I want them to do more great things for more people and become more business driven.
Good. We touched on a big picture, right? But we did not forget about tactical aspects, because that's what RPA is in many ways, right? For me,
very
for a moment when I understood it is task, right? So process concerned with entire workflow, and RPA is helping you, right, to do particular task better, more efficient, right? Is there a healthy way to start an RPA initiative? Let's address those who are just thinking about it, but not there yet. So what's your...
Yeah, the ones that aren't there yet, if you have legacy, you have problems. Because you have all these little systems that came up one at a time. And I'll guarantee you there's one department or one area that's struggling with combining the data and the visualization of those applications. So any cross legacy applications, that's where to start, because number one, you'll get the people on your side because they hate doing the swivel chair integration. They hate, telling a customer, hey, wait while I look this up, instead of showing, well, here's the customer, here's their history, here's all the systems that their information is on, here's a one CRM view of what you have across your legacy system. So, that's a very common area to start in. That's where we see people doing things. Look for dull work that really bothers people, because you'll get people on your side.
Exactly. Let's not forget it's not about technology, it's about people who are making the change, right?
Exactly.
So that said, how about this question, Jim, to finish our conversation today? What do you think RPA, what systems will it replace? How about that? Because we keep saying that companies need this, that, right? Adding more systems, more applications to maintain. So will RPA just replace some of the, besides manual, anything else?
Well, I think as bots get more sophisticated, it won't be a replacement. They'll be creating particular bots that collaborate with people. The thing that RPA has to watch out for is double maintenance. So if you're dealing with that legacy and you have a bot that's looking at the legacy and the legacy underpinning changes, now you've got double maintenance. So, it's an issue of, do you want to continue to do simple automated tasks, or do you want to do something better than that? And I think most companies have enough pressure that they want to do better.
Yep. Good. So quick takeaway, Jim, before we part, we're going to come back to RPA. I mean, naturally, right? When we talk about processes, when we talk about drilling into AI implementations, right? You mentioned how naturally they fit together, but few takeaway for our audience to remember. And
Yeah, bots are hot.
Mm-hmm.
That's a takeaway.
That's number one.
But bots are dumb right now. They don't have a lot of logic in them. And it's pretty mundane things that it does. Bots are getting smarter. Bots are getting more pervasive. Bots need to buddy. And I think as we go through the changing of RPA to become smarter bots, to become more predictive bots, to handle more complex work, and collaborate with mining, AI, BPM, and simple workflow even, you're going to see that RPA will start changing its meaning. The lines will blur. You will see automation, intelligent automation platforms that include those things, and they may become a different market and displace the RPA market.
That's some quite, futuristic look at things. Yes, Jim. Yeah, thank you so much. It's been enormously informative for me today. So thank you. Yep, I'll talk to you soon. Thanks a lot.
You bet. Take care.
Thanks.